Let me begin with a confession. I normally work in biblical studies, which means I don't usually delve much into theology or church doctrine. This might sound strange, but like every academic discipline, biblical studies and theology are becoming more specialised as knowledge grows. After all, an expert is someone who knows increasingly more about increasingly less. The difference between theology and biblical studies is similar to that between theoretical and practical physics. A practical physicist breaks up atoms to discover the building blocks of matter, while a theoretical physicist tries to build a theory to explain all the particles that have been discovered. But what if they found a theory so beautiful and so simple that they decided to ignore any further discoveries? They might decide that the atom is made up of protons, neutrons and electrons, and that this trinity of particles is too perfect to tinker with. The discovery of other particles, such as the Higgs boson, would then be a heresy, and creating something like a quantum computer would be ruled out as impossible before anyone got started. Similar silliness can happen in theology if we forget that it should be built on data that is found in the Bible. So when doctrine develops, we should always look back at the Bible to check whether it's still in line with its foundations. And when Bible scholars discover new things through better understanding of the languages or the context or the meaning of the text, this should help theologians develop their interpretations. But too often, theology hardens into dogma, so that new facts are distrusted as a potential source of heresy. Reading the Bible is very difficult for us because we understand it through a lens that is coloured by our church background and by discussions of doctrine throughout our history. For example, when we come across a description of God as sovereign, we immediately think about debates surrounding predestination or God's power and planning. However, when the original readers of the Bible saw the word sovereign, they thought of a sovereign, that is, a king, and they recognized that God was being compared to a human ruler. So instead of thinking of theological categories, they considered issues such as how far does his rule extend, how glorious is his throne room, and how fair are his laws. In this book, I will attempt to look at doctrines through the lens of the original readers of the Bible. This is important because they are people that the Bible was written for. Many scholars of literature would say that it's actually impossible to know the authorial intent, that is, what the author was thinking about and intending to convey in his writing. That rather pessimistic conclusion is based on the fact that it is so easy to misunderstand even an email from someone you meet every day, and you can misinterpret someone speaking to your face, even if you're married to them. Fortunately, there is a way forward by looking at the reception of a message. If an author knows his readers, he should be able to write a message that will be received clearly. So, in order to understand this message, we have to find out as much as we can about the original readers and read the message through their eyes. The person communicating will know what they already believed, so the message will spend more time on those aspects where they disagree and they need to be persuaded, and it will skim over aspects that they already understand well. That's why the Gospels rarely bother to affirm that there's only one God, whereas the epistles, which are directed to those living in Gentile lands, include reminders that other so-called gods are nothing. This also explains why the Bible never bothers to tackle atheism, because that idea was unthinkable. For me, the best result of all this study would be for the Church to gain a new insight into those doctrines that cause massive divisions between believers, sometimes based on very shaky foundations of the Bible text. undoing 2,000 years of humanity's tendency to bicker and split into rival groups is perhaps an impossible task, but it's still worth aiming at. God bless.